Good evening, it's Jim Howard with Trinity Security Allies, where our ministry is your church's safety. You can find us on trinitysecurityallies.com. Every Sunday night, we do a 30-minute church safety network on our Trinity Security Allies page and also our Church Safety Network Facebook page. We are a nonprofit. For those that are listening, we are looking for financial partners to help us out. We're trying to make it to where we can get to 90% of the churches across the United States where they do not have to pay a fee for training. I mean, that's what we're trying to do with this. We want to reach those 90%. We always have free resources on our webpage. Please go to Trinity Security Allies, and under resources, you can see developing a safety team, putting together a safety team, carrying weapons in church, and Sunday morning, what to look for. You can also go to our YouTube page where you can find our videos or our webinars that we've done, and plus the Facebook Lives that we've done. We post them out there, so in case you didn't get a chance to see them, you can see them there. We will be doing another webinar coming up this week. We'll talk about that in a second. Tonight, if you're out there, I will be with the church safety guys at 9 o'clock. This is James McGarvey and Paul Buckner. They are going to be talking about reopening the churches, which is something that's going to be a lot of talk's going to be about that, because our church is going to go back to normal as we can get July the 5th. We're really excited about it. Our Zoom webinar this week, if you didn't get to see it last week, it's about developing a safety team. It was last Thursday, and it's the biblical reasons to set up a safety team. And this Thursday, it will be the social reasons to set up a safety team. Now, these webinars are free, but we're going to start putting them on our paid page because it helps support the ministry. We would love to give everything away, but people just need to realize, everybody needs to realize, that we are a nonprofit, and we are able to function through donations and membership. That's what helps us get by. So please, if you can, we appreciate it. If not, please contact us and let's see if we can't do something. All right. The topic for today. Winnie and I had this dream. We had this dream of when JC graduates from high school, gets on her way, we're going to downsize. We live in a real nice house right now. We've been blessed. And we're going to downsize. And we talk about all the time of going and getting an RV or a camper and kind of traveling around the country, because we can do this anytime or anywhere in the country. We can talk about Christ and setting up safety teams anywhere. So we're not really tied down to one place. But we really we think about that a lot, and it's something that we kind of would really like to do. We just, Saturday, just to get out of the house, we went up to one of the local Camper World RV places, and we went in, and there was a salesman standing there, and he walked us back to his office. And when we got back to his office, he had a study guide on his computer keyboard on Thessalonians. And so he and I started talking, and found out he goes to a small church, and that he asked us what we did, and we told him about our ministry. And when we were talking to him, it was kind of strange of how he kind of looked at us like, churches really need to be careful. I mean, I think he had the concept there, but I don't think he realized that there's people out here that train on this. And so when we were talking about church safety, we explained to him that a lot of times churches come to us and they say, I have a better chance of being struck by lightning than having an active shooter in my church. And we told him we agree. We agree with that 100%. But we start talking about, lost children, domestic violence, things that we are seeing across the country. And of course, we use a Google alert that every day tells us a lot of stuff that's happening out there. And what this Google alert does, it searches the internet for news articles on church and vandalism, or church plus guns, or church plus shooting, or church plus sexual assault on children. And when I said that to him, both Wendy and I kind of looked at each other and looked back at John, and it seemed like John just couldn't believe that there's that much going on out here. And I kind of told him, I said, you really need to be paying attention. I said, this is kind of one of the things that I feel like a lot of churches don't do, is listen to organizations about things that are happening in their neighborhood or in this country. You know, we have a lot of vandalisms that happen all the time in the churches across the United States. It's very rare that we open up a Google alert that there's not a new vandalism to a church. And of course, with the COVID-19 virus that was out here, we had a lot of vandalisms because churches wanted to get back. They did not understand why they were closed down and other groups weren't. They wanted to get back. People needed to get back. They needed that. And so churches were vandalized. Even one was burnt to the ground, and graffiti painting was done on the street that says, maybe this will keep you home, you hypocrites. So people, I kind of get surprised sometimes when I'm talking to somebody that doesn't realize the attacks that are happening on churches. And this is where I think we really need to be paying attention to these type of things, Google alerts. And so how do you get this information? I don't expect you to go and do a Google alert on your time. You could. It's time consuming. I will tell you, every day at 12 o'clock, we get a new one and we go through them to see if there's anything out there to post. But what we do is we post it on our church safety networking Facebook page, and people post things out there so you can get an idea of what is going on around this country. Now, one of the other things that we do with the Google alerts is that we try to keep up with what is going on in states as far as law for churches. Several years back, we saw the Mississippi Church Protection Act, where it talked about if a person had to respond inside of a church, that it would not find the church liable or that person liable for their actions. And we're talking about protecting people. We're not talking about acting stupid, but to protect people. But like just this last week, there was a law being passed in Louisiana where at one time the pastors had to bless you in order for you to carry a concealed weapon inside the church. Well, Louisiana is now going to allow people to carry their guns in the church without having to ask for permission from the pastor. Now, if the pastor says this is a gun-free zone, it's a gun-free zone. You have to understand that. But it's kind of the same thing that we were talking about weapons inside the church. You know, we shouldn't be really emphasizing that we train like a SWAT team. I mean, I just think that puts you in just a very, very difficult situation in case you do have a shooting and something goes wrong. Because they're going to look at the type of training that you do. If you keep training records on all your team members, how up to date. I mean, we went through this whole thing. If you have not heard this, go out to our YouTube page, Trinity Security Allies, and look at bringing weapons into the church or weapons in the church, that webinar. Because we went through it and talked a lot about it, because I just think it's something that we get kind of hung up that this is the main thing that we're doing with church safety. It is not. It is protecting the flock, but it's protecting the flock from other things. Now, when I talked about the biblical point of view, I talked about watchmen on the towers and who they were. And they were people that not only watched the comings and goings of people in their towns when they were watchmen on the towers, but they also watched what was happening inside the town, because they knew everybody, and they knew when there was problems or people were mad at each other or there may be some trouble. So they knew they had their finger on the pulse of their city, and we as safety team members need to have our finger on the pulse of what is happening inside our church. This is not talking about gossip. This is talking about making sure that we're paying attention to, in case of a potential danger that could happen in a church, that we are aware of it without being caught blindsided. Now, we also talk about, I had lunch this week with a pastor from a Lutheran church, and he was talking about that a lot of his safety team members are young people that kind of come and go, and he really didn't have a safety team at this time. So I told him, I said, let's come in and train your staff, your volunteers, and let them be your safety team. Because if you see something, you do something. Let's just put it that way. It's, you know, when we talk about if you see something, say something, that's great if you have the time to do it. But inside a church where there might be a potential problem, you might not have time to say something. You know, your first reaction, and we'll talk about this in a minute, of what that first reaction is, but it's just that you need to train so that you're a culture of awareness of watching for something that might be a possible threat or something that could disrupt your church. We have to train everybody. Really, I feel like you should train your members of your church. Now I'm talking about your members of the church. I know that people get concerned when we talk about doing something like that because the bad guys might come in and learn our secrets. They're not going to learn your secrets. They already know the secrets. When they walk in the door and see you with your earpiece on, or some of the churches I talk to have armbands or shirts that say, you know, security, which that's another subject for another day. But they know who you are when you're the guy that's looking back at them when they're surveying the church. You're surveying this person. So it's not like these people are not aware that churches have started to build safety teams. But what we have to do is know who is new and who's not. And when we see somebody new that's not dragging a family behind them, and really, to tell you the truth, that's even a good one to get to know, maybe a potential safety team member later on. But we should be meeting these people. We should be a part of the church, greeting people. It doesn't have to be at the door. It could be inside. We have what we call the gathering, which is a large area where we have coffee and we have a place to where people can talk. So it could be in that, but you should get to know everybody that comes into your church, especially your members, because it really disturbs me a little bit when people get all upset because we may reopen our churches and some of us may be wearing masks, and that's just a security reach to the nth degree. No, it's not. It's just a mask. It's just a mask. It's like a lady wearing a hat. It's a mask, and you should know these people by now. I can tell you that when people walk into my church, I know who they are, even though they're wearing a mask. They're tall, they're short, they're wide, they're small, they're skinny, you know who they are. You know who they are. It's not like you're walking into a masquerade ball of people that you don't know. But if you see somebody that you don't recognize, then you should take it upon yourself to go over and introduce you to this person. You should go over and say, hey, I'm Jim Howard. I'm with Generations Christian Church. I don't have to tell them I'm with the safety team. Is this your first time here? Start up a conversation. It's just really that easy. But in that time frame, I can tell you within 2 minutes or less whether or not this person I should be concerned about. It just takes a little bit of training, a little bit of verbal de-escalation, knowing how to talk to people. It's real simple. Like I said, we can teach you on this. So come out to our trainings on Thursday night. Now, everybody's excited. We're reopening our church July the 5th. Why are we waiting so long? We want to bring everybody in. We don't want to we've had churches that have just brought adults in and the kids can't come in. And so, when we have situations like that, a lot of our people that have children aren't going to come to our church. So we wanted to open up to where everybody came in. And I can tell you right now, there's going to be a huge crowd. The chatter that's going on right now is unbelievable. Everybody's talking about it, which also tells me that there's other people talking about it. Back in April 2020, Department of Homeland Security sent out a letter talking about please review your security plans and ensure procedures are in place to protect your facilities and visitors. They went on to say, now I want to stress this, although there was no imminent or credible threats at this time, there has been an increased online hate speech intended to encourage violence or the use of the ongoing situation as an excuse to spread hate. Now, they went on to say additional stressors, and of course they said caused by pandemic. But let me add a little more to this right now because of the temperature of our country right now. Additionally, stressors caused by the pandemic, police brutality, riots, church decisions on opening up, government cover-up of any other issue people may be coming up with may contribute to an individual's decision to commit an attack or influence their target of choice. Now, let's just talk about this for a little bit. We have an issue right now. We see it out here. This is something that is very concerning of us. I mean, we wrote it. I will tell you how it's just, I really have never seen it like this, but it just goes to show even something as simple. We shared our June blog, which was Now's the Time for Christian Revolution. And it talked about if we're going to change things, Christ has got to be involved in it. That's just the only way that you can do it. You have to put it out there that churches need to get together. We as Christians do not see color. I pray and hope that you feel the same way. We do not see color, but we need to get out here and make a stand to show Christ's love. Christ, the reason why we are here as Christians, because of his strength and his peace and his comfort that he gives us, but also that he causes us to have some sense of reason when things start to fall apart. We can trust him because we know that God is in charge. But we posted our June blog on Facebook, and Facebook came back and said they had a problem with it. They blocked us from posting it. It was one of the best blogs that we had put out, but Facebook came out and blocked it from us and said that, that this was, well, the reason why they gave us was just unbelievable. I mean, it just talked about that we were trying to sell COVID-19 products, which didn't have anything to do with that at all. And so anyway, if you will, please go out and read our blog and share it on your Facebook. We want to get it out. This is something that needs to be out there. We can make a change if we as Christians want to get together and do it. I am trying to put something together right now. I'm working with two strong brothers that want to change this world. And so we're going to get together and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to put something out here that maybe we can get 50 guys, 100 guys, 200 guys. But at least if we're working toward making a change, we can do it the Christ-like way and be back strong again in this country. We have been given an opportunity right now. Churches are considered essential now. At one time, a lot of states said no, but we have stood up to that, and now they're saying it is time for us to open up. We need to open up for those that have been hurting inside their house. I have a friend of mine that works with the people on drugs and people alcoholism, Celebrate Recovery. And he says the worst thing in the world is to have anybody that has some sort of addiction to be stuck at home. So we need to open up. We need to get back out here. And we have to watch out because this could be some of the stressors that we have out here. People are hurting. So let's make sure that when we get ready to get back out here, let's get our safety teams together. Let's sit down and talk about some of the things we need to remember. Let's start talking about threat profiling, what to look for when somebody comes into your church. Now, one of the things that happened this weekend that I was just kind of, I know that we're trying desperately to get information out to churches about safety and things like that. But it was talking about self-defense inside the church, non-lethal weapons inside the church. But the thing that bothered me the most about it is that, really, to tell you the truth, it should never get to that point. We need to be proactive and not reactive. And I'm going to say this, you're going to hear me say this over and over and over again. You contact your local law enforcement as soon as you see something that makes you feel uncomfortable. Have a hard line to where all you have to do is dial 911. If you dial the non-emergency number, make sure that you have the address of your church. Make sure the location of your church so that they can get people coming that way. But as soon as you see something that makes you feel uncomfortable, you need to be calling local law enforcement. There are going to be some trying times right now. I think that our Google alerts are going to explode with things that are going to be happening inside churches because of just the different things that we've already started to see. There are people out here that call this a fake virus, that it's a fake pandemic. There are people out here that think it's the end of the world. There are people out here that are truly hurting because they've lost everything. They've lost their business. All these different things like that are going to be stressors that we need to pay attention to. And then there are going to be those that are going to want to make a point. And it could be something as, just somebody standing up in the middle of your church screaming out things about the demonstrations that are going, I don't want to say demonstrations, the protests that are going on. Peaceful protest is something we can all agree on. When it gets into the riot, I'm sorry, I can't agree with you. But somebody may stand up in your church to try to prove a point because of the emotions that have been going on since we've been watching all this on television. We just need to be prepared. It is time. It is coming. It is really close. And I'm excited about it. I can't wait. I'm looking so forward to it. I know that social distancing is going to be a problem in my area because there's going to be a lot of people that I'm going to want to hug. But I know I have to be a leader here and probably do the elbow bump or, this Star Trek, live long and prosper. I don't know. But I'm really excited about it. We are all excited about it. But make sure you are ready as far as your safety team goes. Make sure that everybody understands that this is an important time inside our church, and we are ready. We are ready. But we just have to make sure that we don't overdo it. Please, a person walking in that may need help, you may overanalyze it and think that they are a threat, but in actuality, they need help. And if we do it the wrong way, we will lose that person. So make sure you're ready. Pray about it before you get there. Your team needs to pray every service to make sure that you are ready to meet those that come to worship, that are there, that are hurting, and then the possibility of the wolf in sheep clothing. Make sure your medical team's ready. I was really happy to see that Joanne, the girl that's in charge of our medical team, fired off an email that was like, we're going home, as soon as she found out that we were opening back up. They need to be there, and they need to be watching the crowd just like you are. They need to be trained to look for signs of possible virus and questions to ask. I mean, these are things that we need to make sure that we're ready for, okay? So I'm really excited about this, but I want us to make sure that we are prepared. There's a lot going on out here. I tell you, I am concerned for the churches. After seeing what has been going on around this country, I'm afraid we're going to be the protest site next. I'm afraid that people are going to try to disrupt your church service if they feel that they can make a statement. So this is just something that's going to be out here that I think we really need to be watching for. And if you don't know somebody that walks into your church, go over and talk to them. Get to know them. You may change their mind. You may show them the love of Christ, and the next thing you know, they're wanting to walk with you in your journey with Christ. I kind of need to talk about, I'm going to change the subject real quick. I got word, and I probably should have said something last Sunday, but I was on a tangent because of everything that was going on. Some people said I was a little preachy last week, which I don't really care. I'm trying to be a little more subdued tonight, but I needed to get my point across last week. And if you haven't seen it, go out to YouTube or Facebook. We have it out here. May 26, 2020, I found out that a really good friend of mine, Joe Shock, had passed away. And I had been asked to write something for his wife. He was up in South Carolina. He was down here. He grew up here. You always remember you remember guys like Joe because Joe stops you in your track. I mean, you have friends, but then there's friends. And Joe was one of these friends. He came to I facilitate a Monday night class, and he came in and he sat down. And while he was sitting there, he had this look on his face. Now Joe had this short haircut, kind of spiked. I mean, it looked like, the 60s haircut style. And he was sitting there, and he looked like he was ticked off at the world. And I kept watching him the whole time because this is the first time I met him. And he added a couple little statements in there. I mean, he didn't talk a lot. He just kind of added some things in. But after the Monday night was over with, I walked over and introduced myself to him and told him I was glad that he was here. And we started talking. And I found out he had been a fire marshal and, just a couple of other things. But what was so amazing about it, he had this infectious laugh. When he would laugh, I mean, the room would shake. And he was a big guy, and he looked tough, and he looked mean. But the thing of it was, he had this heart of gold. I mean, I don't want to call him a teddy bear because he might have been to Bobby, his wife, and I'm for sure he was to his kids at the time, but he was just as straight as and serious as they could possibly be about things when it needed to be serious. We had a Christmas celebration one time that the Creative Arts had decided in their infinite wisdom that they were going to take a anvil in the middle of the stage and they were going to hit it with a saw of some sort and shoot sparks across the floor. Well, Joe, when he saw it, lost his mind because, we have all these drapes and things like that. And they were like, oh, they would never catch on fire. I love those. It's like, when somebody says, hold my beer while I do this, we knew it could happen. But he was so serious about it that he sat through every one of our Christmas services. And I mean, like there were 7 of them with a fire extinguisher ready to go. I mean, he was just ready to go in case something happened. He was always there when the doors were open, and he didn't leave until you told him to go home. And every time I had a training or every time I had a networking meeting that was in the area, Joe was there. I could always count on Joe. When he left, he moved up to South Carolina, and they got a farm up there with some horses. I was so happy for him. But about 3-4 weeks ago, Bobby had called me and said that, just everything had started to fall apart and that it didn't look good. He hung on for a while longer to where his children could get to the bedside, from what I understand, and passed away on like I said, May 26th. He will be missed. He was a great guy. It's just one of those that the one thing that I am so excited about is I know his heart and I know where he is tonight, and I can't wait to see him again. And I'm going to kind of leave you with a couple of things, but one of them is this. John 14:1-4. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that? I'm going there to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. You know the place where I am going. I know Joe is there tonight, and I'm happy for him. I really, the family, I hope they can rejoice a little bit about his life because he was full of it. Man never feared anything, never did, but he had such a heart of gold. He was such a great guy. So anyway, hopefully I will see you this Thursday night at 8 o'clock on our Zoom webinar. We'll be talking about the social reasons to set up a safety team. I placed the website where you can go and register for it. Please go out and do. Tonight, I'm going to be with the church safety guys at 9 o'clock with James McGarvey and Paul Buckner. We're going to be talking about opening up the churches and what we should be ready for and prepared for. Of course, I don't know if you've ever watched this, or I don't know if you've ever watched James and Paul, but I know what we're supposed to be talking about, but where it goes, I have no idea. But it is always good information. So if you can stay up a little bit. I know it's past my bedtime, but 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, church safety guys, James McGarvey and Paul Buckner. And come and join us on Thursday night on social reasons why you should have a safety team. This is Jim Howard, Trinity Security Allies, where our ministry is your safety, your church's safety. Good night, be safe, and God bless.